I have a problem
to
where I'll just keep adding new things. It was a process. We had to take all the pictures, put it on. We were not arts and crafts people. Right? You know, 3 or 4 reps, I'd cramp on that every single time. Everybody else would just, you know, breeze through the whole thing. Powerlifting competitive plates without the lips suck. Everybody knows that, but nobody wants to talk about it.
How many monos are in here?
There's 4 now. I had 5, but I moved one out. That's probably a bad example. You're not gonna give a kid away. But like a dog or some shit, a cat, there you go.
I think in this wall alone, there's like 130 barbells. I was kind of roughly counting.
Yeah, it could be.
And it just goes on and on and on.
Massenomics.
What's up, everyone? We're back for another gym tour. This time it's not a home gym, though, unless you consider this your home, Dave.
Well, yeah, I'm probably here more than I am at home. So.
Yeah, okay, so it's still kind of a home gym. We're at, of course, EliteFTS with Big Dave Tate.
Yep.
So, Dave, thanks for having us here. We're excited, obviously, to check it out. We've been in here once before, but EliteFTS gym is a thing you probably need, like, I don't know, to be in here 20 hours to start to soak up everything that's in here for a lifetime.
Probably, yeah.
So
there's still things I see there.
What version of the gym is this? I know you've got iterations that it's been through.
S4.
Okay.
Well, the first one was in my garage, and that was when I was still competing.
Okay.
And that was just for accessories, so I didn't have to run in the West Side on the extra training days.
Yeah.
And then when we moved downtown, that would have been S1. Wendler named these things a long time ago.
So S1, what year was that?
Oh, man. 2002.
Okay.
And that really just became an extension. We were still training at West Side, but we wanted to do the bench days at my place.
Yeah.
So it was just a power rack with just a flat bench, not even a 0 to 90.
Yeah.
So a power rack with a 0 to 90. We ran the IPA Nationals that year.
Okay.
So because of that, I had a deadlift platform, the Monolift, and I think we got a comp bench that came in after that. Then a lat pull down machine, so just basic stuff.
Okay.
And some dumbbells. And then when we moved to Main Street, which would have been, fuck, I don't know, we've been here 7 years, 15 years ago, I don't know, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Then we moved into, we had this house type thing, which the office was, and then the warehouse for the shipping stuff. And then right next to the warehouse, we had a gym, which was probably 400 square foot. So we moved kind of from the same square foot to the same square foot.
Yeah.
And then as the company grew, and the apparel grew, we had to move the heat presses and shit to the weight room. Then the weight room then left and went in the middle of the country.
Okay.
Out at an old John Deere dealership.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that before.
And when it was out there, it became S3.
Okay.
Actually, that's what this will make sense in a minute. So that became the next gym. We didn't stay out there for very long because I didn't wrap my head around how expensive propane can be. And even though we were training out there, some dipshit, me, or somebody else would leave the heat on, right? So you go out there and you're training on Wednesday, but nobody comes back in until Saturday.
Yeah.
Then the tank's empty. Like, oh, we need to fill the tank again. Not a big deal. Here they come at $1,500. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So, I loved the place. But anytime we'd have a delivery or something, we'd have to leave work, go over there, wait for the truck, which everybody knows how that sucks, waiting for a freight driver. It sucks even worse when it's not where you live or where you work.
Yeah.
And so as the company grew, the lumber yard, which used to be in the same strip we were, we convinced them to close in the front of it, right? Because it was an open lumber yard. So it was 3 sides were closed. Closed that in, then we picked up like 6,000 square foot. And then when they put the door on there, because the way everything was numbered, like our warehouse was S1, the t-shirt thing was S2.
Yeah.
This was S3 on the door, right?
Okay.
So then it became S3.
Yep.
And because of the way it's always been set up, because they are separate kind of buildings, it was S3 compound, right? So then when we came here, S4.
Okay.
Right. So
that's
a long story.
S4 is where we're at now.
Is where we're at now.
I apologize in advance. We're not going to cover every single thing in S4 because this would be a 7-hour-long video to go through that.
What's the bar count?
They're close to 200.
I'll tell you, I was counting before Dave walked in. I found another rack in the back that had like 10 more. I think it's a decent bit over 200.
Yeah,
I think it's like I'm putting it at like 220.
Oh, really?
Barbells in
Yeah,
here.
because a few years ago I counted 187, but that gets hard to do.
Yeah,
Because you'll forget stuff, and then you'll see like one in a corner somewhere. Then AI is going to help with that shortly.
Yeah.
We'll just take a picture of it, and it will tell you what it
that's
is.
how many bars you got. Okay, so we'll talk about some of the equipment here, but you got a few machines here right at the beginning.
Yep.
Look at this. I don't know. I guess suppose you could call this a functional trainer, is what it would be called if it was in a home gym setting. You know, it's enormous. Obviously, it's a double plate stack, EliteFTS.
Yeah, what we put in here is everything that would be scaled up to the biggest version of what we can do.
Okay.
This can be scaled all the way down to a plate-loaded version.
Okay.
Right, but at the highest end, if you have a university that's got tall athletes, you're going to need a taller functional trainer and a taller lat machine per se.
A tall, wide functional trainer.
Tall and wide, yes. So, and with that, we'll put all the storage and all that. This has got more storage than anybody's ever going to need, as you're going to see as we go through a lot of these things do.
Like the grip attack, you know, that's the other thing too, like, not only is there a lot of machines and stuff in here, but there's like 100 things on every machine.
Yes.
Too.
The attachments is another beast. I'm going to wait for AI to count because that is mind-numbing because you'd have to take them all apart. But if we show that you can have all these different versions and it can be laser cut and all that, that's easier for the high schools and stuff that want that logoing.
Well, like look at the customization, even just like in the back of the, I don't know, the squatter back there and everything.
Yes.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, so there's laser cut, vinyl cut, all the different versions that we have. So it gets dicey when somebody comes out here and like, well, I want the home gym version, and now I got to have to, well, picture this smaller and plate loaded.
Yeah, and then the lat pull down tower too there. I guess you have some stuff in most of your stuff in here is EliteFTS, but you have some things that probably aren't, or is this like
I used to be a distributor for Magnum many years ago. Okay. So a lot of the pieces that we have in here were Magnum, but I've slowly been replacing those with our own version. This one has been for sale forever. That we need to get out because I got another low row down there part
to
of
replace it.
Yeah.
Are you moving equipment in and out very often? Like, is what's here for the most part, or are you swapping stuff out, or what?
I have a problem to where I'll just keep adding new things.
Things don't leave.
And it got to be a problem. Yeah. So just over the past few months, we got rid of a lot of things just to open the floor plan back up a little bit. Yeah. Where there might be 8 pieces that we took out of here, but you wouldn't know it. Yeah. So now I do have the room to put in, because we have other pieces that we have on the market that we don't have here that people want to see. Right. But I got to this weird spot, like I know it will fit, like right here. Right. You know, but it's going to become a. So there is. So there is slowly swapping out.
Okay. Cardio. We don't have all day. We're not going to talk about that crap. And then going down the aisle here, you know, something that I always think is particularly cool. What's the Mondo leg press called? What's the
Monster Mondo leg press? Yeah. This one here was when we came. The one that we had here now, I think, is at Madtown Fitness, because that's the first one that we had. It was been around for 20 years. Yeah. I just needed to upgrade it to what our. See, that's where it sucks, right? Because you have something that works. Yeah. Right, and it's awesome. But then I got to bring in the newer version and pay for it. It's like this, you know. But anyhow, what I wanted back then was none of the leg presses had an adjustable seat. Yeah. Right. That was the first problem, and there were a couple that had a wide base, but very, very few. So I wanted the widest base we can have for sumo deadlifting. If you want to, you know, build the adductors and so forth.
Put your in a leg position like you'd actually be in sumo deadlifting.
Then unilateral, bilateral. Yes.
Yeah, it's freaking huge, too. Yes. I mean, it's just an absolute tank. Yes. I'd also point out, part of what makes this gym what it is the equipment, of course. Mm-hmm. But part of it, too, I think, you know, not just this wall, but part of it is the, I don't know, atmosphere, decor, whatever you want to call it. But I think this is particularly cool. You know, I know you've mentioned at other iterations it was actually pictures on the wall. Yes. And then you had this vinyl made.
Yeah, when we were in S3, actually S2, you know, we were just throwing pictures against because it was insulation. Right. So I could just thumbtack the pictures in the insulation. Right. Then when we moved out of there, we it was a process. We had to take all the pictures, put it on. We were not arts and crafts people,
Right.
Right. Take it and like glue it on poster board. And I thought the poster board would hold, but it didn't. So we had to glue it on poster board, then attach the poster board to plywood, and then moved them all over to S3. Then when it came here, I'm like, we're taking them too. And that was a big no.
Right.
It was a problem.
Yeah.
And so my graphics guy took as many of the pictures that he could find
and put them together
vinyl.
on this. It's really sweet.
But we lost a lot because a lot of the pictures I had back then were legacy.
Yeah.
When I was competing and shit like that, and you never think to duplicate anything.
Yeah.
And we didn't have digital cameras, so it was just, gone.
Yeah. What? Just pure out of curiosity, this cartoon of the guy.
Yeah.
I remember back, like when I was first getting into it in T Nation and your articles and stuff like that, there was like quite a few cartoons of that style.
Yeah.
Who was that, or who was doing that, making those, or what was that?
Oh my God.
Do you remember?
I want to say his name was, I don't want to screw this up,
Okay.
man. Dustin, I think, but somebody reached out to me to create characters.
It was cool. I mean, it has a very particular
Oh,
look,
it's great, man,
really
because I
well.
remember going on a cruise one time, and I'm like just taking pictures of this chair and this table. I'm like, stick the dude there.
Yeah.
You know, then if you look, the dude was in the same position, sitting on all these different places, and going. And that was the EliteFTS troll. And we created him because we wanted to have a troll on our Q&A. Right. We could use that as that character. And for a while, I think we had a Twitter account.
Okay.
For the EliteFTS troll.
The troll.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. The Hack Squad also has the enormous.
Wide plate and adjustable. That's the key thing. Is the hack squat would always wreck my knees.
Gotcha.
But when you can adjust the foot plate,
then
you can take that strain off of that.
And what do you call it? Is this more
power
like a
squat?
Okay, power squat.
Yeah, so you're facing the wall.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's facing that direction.
Yes.
Okay. And also the enormous foot plate on this too.
It's kind of a theme.
I was gonna say that's a theme, right?
Yeah. Foot plate and band pegs.
Yeah. And I mean, we're walking by several machines too. But what is that, for example? What is this machine? It looks like it's been.
That's
around
a
for a
really old Sornex back attack.
Okay.
Which was it gets used a lot.
I was going to say, so obviously this is stuck around.
Yes.
And I assume that's because you like it. You know, like if something's old and if it's in here and it's old, it's because.
Well, I believe it's patented too.
Okay.
So there's. And I haven't thought of any way to kind of replicate. There's so much you can do on this. That you can replicate it and just make a good morning machine. But you can flip this shit all the way around and use it for hip work, neck work, all kinds of stuff.
If we skip past something that you have a particularly good story
this
on,
here,
you just tell me. Because
this is one of our best sellers, actually, which is the leg extension, leg curl.
Yep, plate loaded, and it does either one.
Yes, and then you can do seal rows on it, which is what we were doing yesterday. The bar just goes here. But the advantage with the leg, this comes up and down, right? So if you want the quad stretch, do the leg extensions and lay all the way back.
Because that's the thing. You listen to Dr. Mike, he's like, put the seat all the way back. Well, here you put the seat all the way back.
Yes, and then when I used to train with Meadows, we used to do the lying leg curls, and to failure in this position, then we would come into more of an arched, position here where this can come up and come down. It changes the tension on the hamstrings just a little bit.
And to be able to do seal rows on it is a good point. We were just in a gym that he had a dedicated seal row machine. It takes up a lot of room.
Yeah, and there's not a lot you can do with it.
Right. Where this, I'm like, okay, you can get a seal row out of something that's already a leg extension and leg curl machine. Yeah, makes sense. Well, here, your dumbbell area, up to 150s and a couple different sets. What? And those have the EliteFTS branding on it. What are those?
Those are Intech.
Okay.
So we're a supplier of Intech as well. So Intech, we got Troy as well. We can get Troy dumbbells, Intech dumbbells. Yeah. Cap dumbbells.
What do you do with, this
That's like kind of like a dumbbell floor press.
Okay.
So it's a floor press pad we had made a long time ago.
Right.
Yesterday they just threw it between two benches.
Right. And then you don't actually have to lay on the floor then too.
Yeah. Which kind of defeats the purpose if you want to take leg drive out. Right. But it is what it is.
Okay. Tommy, look at tsunami, earthquake, barbell bar corner
Yeah.
there.
I threw all those in the corner because it became a hard time trying to find them.
Yeah.
Because when they're laid across all the other bars, it becomes an issue. And one of the things that we were doing for a long time is taking 2 of the tsunami bars. This is why I have a couple of each one.
Yeah.
And then laying them crosswise into a power rack across the safety pins and then doing walking dips. Right? So it has just about enough flex in there.
Yeah.
That barbells will kind of, for some people, will wreck their elbows a little bit.
Right.
And shoulders. This allows for that. Then when we started doing those, I'm like, this isn't working because one's got more flex than the other one.
Right. You talk about the lifting that's going on in here. I mean, obviously you sell equipment and that's part of the gym, but there's lifting going on in here.
Yeah.
Like, how many people normally lift here, or what's it like?
I would say there's no members.
Right,
There's just
right. That's why
guests.
I don't want to say members,
Yeah,
but
so
like,
Saturday has always been designated squat day. So if I go way, way, way back. So after I left Westside, there was a handful of other people that I was training with at the time. Todd Brock, Joe Amato, Mike Ruggiero. I may be forgetting Kenny Patterson, a couple of other ones that were ex-Westside. And it was just kind of us training. And then they said, we should start bringing people out. And I'm like, man, I don't want to do that.
Right.
You know, because then who's going to open, who's going to close,
Right.
all this other kind of shit. So then as that discussion went on, it became, well, what are the rules going to be? And then that turned into what are the rules not going to be.
yeah.
Right?
So, like, you've had rules before you didn't like, so we're not going to,
Yes.
those are rules we're
like
not
you have to
gonna
be here at 8:30. If you're not here
Right.
at 8:30, it's
Right.
like, come on, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
So throughout that conversation, it's like, what's the training going to look like? Because people have jobs.
Right.
When I was at Westside, it was a little different for me because powerlifting was first, the job was second. So I would just
Yeah.
find a job that would fit when I was going to train.
Right.
But if most people have jobs and if we want to try to bring people out, you know, to help them as powerlifters, we're reducing the number of people that we can bring out significantly.
Right.
When it's these X times, so forth. So Saturday became squat day, squat day, Sunday became bench day, which can be problematic when those are the 2 heavy days because you got to
Back to
recover
back,
from
yeah,
that,
right.
So then Friday became off, Monday became off, Friday you can rest, Monday you can rest.
Right.
And that's when we started to bring people out. So over time, that's become, you know, friends of people and sponsors, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So on a given Saturday, we can have anywhere between 6 and 30.
Okay.
Because people travel, some people will travel 3 hours every
Right.
Saturday.
Right.
Usually 45 minutes, something like that. During the week, some of them are a little bit more local, say within 40 minutes.
Yeah.
They periodically train at different times, but it's
Yeah.
just like 1 or 2 of them. And it's not like they need spots during those training days
Yeah.
because it's either deadlifts, like what do you need a spot for that
Yeah,
for?
right.
Or it's just accessory type of work. So overall, it ranges.
Yeah, it depends.
It ranges.
And like you said, it's not really you don't
Yes.
have membership.
And everybody out here, if I had to leave and have them lock up, I trust.
Yeah.
And that's a big factor because right through the bathroom is our warehouse and offices and everything else.
Right. Yeah. So there has to be a certain level of trust. What is this piece? I see the foot plate in the back. So is it like
It's a prone row. So if you get in there, rear delts,
Right.
rows, dumbbell rows.
Kind of like that, and it's pretty small footprint and
Yes.
do the job. Yeah, I've never really paid attention to that before. That's cool. What are those?
I have somebody send. I get a lot of stuff
Yeah,
out here
yeah,
that people
like,
send to me.
yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that was interesting. Then it's like, is that just a bumper plate?
Yeah.
You know, that they carved out and put handles on. The preacher curl, I apologize for. Somebody returned it to us. It's probably the only one that we've ever sold in the history of the company. So it ended up here.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Otherwise, you're not.
No.
I mean, it's sissy.
Yeah, the
squat,
giant sissy
Yeah.
squat.
Okay, giant's a good word for it
Yeah.
because I'm like, that is giant.
again, wide stance.
Yeah, very wide. And then the
Back
45
raise.
Back raise.
Yes, that was
yeah.
another one that when we wanted to a lot of these things is changing designs of existing products.
Right.
On most of them, the heel pads
Yeah,
don't adjust.
it's not adjustable.
And then this doesn't adjust. It's
Right.
like, it's not that hard. And then
What if-
make it just a little wider.
You know, I'm 6'3", if the other guy's 5'7",
Yeah.
this is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But can you make variations of this? You talked about with the machines. This is the biggest, best variation.
Yeah, I mean, we got
yeah.
the scale down,
Right,
non-adjustable.
right.
Before we jump over there, this blue bench
Yeah,
here,
yeah. How long has that been around?
this was originally at Westside when I was at Dimmers.
Okay.
Pretty
so
much
this is
most
old.
of the time there.
Yeah.
And then when Louis moved from Dimmers to West Belt, you know, he got rid of some stuff.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that helped to some degree my stability and shaking on the squats. So it became one of the first pieces that was in my garage before anything else.
So how did this help your stability on the squats?
Because it just targeted my abs in a way nothing else
Okay.
could really do that.
Really? Yeah.
Looking back, it was a bracing problem, not a strength problem.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. You know, I do now in hindsight. But, you know, 3 or 4 reps, I'd cramp on that every single time. Everybody else would just, you know, breeze through the whole thing.
Right.
Use it more for tricep extensions.
Right.
And stuff like that. But that's probably the oldest piece that's in here.
I mean, was this is this homemade or was this a commercially available piece of
I think
equipment?
a guy
somewhere?
named Fred Koch, which originally was the one that designed and I believe patented it and was
Okay.
selling it through Muscle Mag and probably sent it to Louis.
Yeah. Did it always have like this?
It's the same pad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This pad's held up well
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that is. Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be 35 years old, maybe more.
Yeah. That's
Probably
cool.
going back 95.
Yeah, that's cool. You got your Swiss bar.
Yeah,
What's the
yeah.
right term for the bars in this rack?
I call them American bars
American
because when we
bars.
first came out with them, I believe Wendler's the one that named it the Swiss bar because
Okay.
it looked kind of like a Swiss type of thing.
Yeah.
And it had multiple features like Swiss Army bar. But then over time, everybody started calling it
Right.
a Swiss bar, and I didn't trademark it, which I probably should have. And then because they're made in America, we just changed the name to American bars. There's
Oh,
angle
I
grip,
actually never
camber
picked up
grip.
on that. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So, but Swiss originated with you guys then.
Yes.
That's where that word came from.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Some people will say football.
Well, there
sometimes,
was
right?
a
Is that
football bar
or-
that came a little bit later. The difference with that one is the center is knocked out.
Okay.
And I believe there's a patent on that because we've looked into that because then you can get it closer.
Okay.
We found other ways to get the bar a little bit closer.
Right.
But that's a little too risky,
Okay.
you know, where I don't believe it's being made anymore, but the patent is still active.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get, I know how that works.
Right.
I don't
It's
want to get in those situations.
And
again.
you brought that up a couple times, so it's obvious like that's you know, something you want to stay away from if
Yes.
if
Yes.
you're able
Patents
to.
and trademarks
Yeah.
are things you want to stay away
Yeah,
from.
yeah. That's fair. The weight racks in the center here,
Yeah.
a recent change. Actually, we were just we were at touring a guy's gym yesterday morning by the name of No Way Jose, Jose Gonzalez, and we got to take a look at some Chrome Alico plates that he had there. So you got rid of some. You did get rid of something.
Yeah, I did get rid of some things.
You got rid of
I
something.
got rid of some things.
Yeah. So I think they were in a picture with John.
With John,
Meadows
yeah,
up
they
there before.
there. They were there.
Yeah, so they were in that rack before.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, but you have these plates in that. Did you already have this set?
We have the
then, too?
Legos. Lego doesn't make the chrome ones anymore.
Right.
So when they made, I helped design the ones that they have.
Yeah.
And that was probably a decade ago.
Okay.
So we're getting before 2020. They discontinued before that because they were thinking university space, which is why it has the lip on it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I love the idea of having the lip on it because it's the powerlifting competitive plates without the lip suck. Everybody knows that, but nobody wants to talk about
Everybody
it.
knows
They
that
just
those suck.
suck.
Yes, grabbing a
Right.
25 kilo.
Yeah.
You know, they're prone to dropping those. You know, like
yes.
absolutely.
So I started to perceive that as more of a branding issue because none of the suppliers that we have chrome plates.
Right.
But others do. So if all the photos and all the videos that you're seeing in here, it can be a brand issue.
Right.
So that's why they went.
But he's taking good care of them, though.
Yeah.
So you know, the platform.
Yes.
Is this the EliteFTS platform then?
Yeah,
too?
so it's originally we just had the normal platform, which is the white one that's back there, which I
Yep.
used in the IPA Nationals 20 some years ago.
Okay.
This just adding band pegs is all we really did to that. But this
Yeah.
becomes more problematic than what you think because you can add band pegs to a platform and then the whole platform lifts up.
Right.
So you got to have the braces and the supports underneath the platform.
Right.
And there was a lot of testing that went through with this because you get a lot of bands on it, and then the whole thing starts bending and moving.
Yep.
But
you have this rolling deadlift jack too with wheels on it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty sweet. I like that. There's barbell racks everywhere here.
Yes. Yes. There's like a fat bar one. That's the only one that's kind of organized.
Okay. For the most part though, otherwise it's.
Yeah. Like the fat bars are kind of throughout here.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. What is this plate set? Actually, you have an old Ironman 100-pound plate. Where'd this come from? Any idea?
I think that came out of West Side as well when we moved.
That's collectible.
That's got to be like 100 years old.
I was going to say, people want that plate.
Yeah,
okay.
that one's not going to go.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because it says Iron Man on it, too. It's freaking awesome.
People definitely want that plate right there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, are you aware, I'm sure you're aware to some extent, but I don't know to what extent, how collectible old vintage plate, like what the market in the last couple of years, it's actually insane.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
Like when you say we're lifting at West Side, would you have ever thought that certain old
hell no
plates are like, people are like, yeah, someone's going to really want these, like, just because they're a collector's item?
No, I mean, so we were looking for, I mean, back then it was hard to find York hundreds that were rounded.
Right.
Because you can get more of those on the bar than the more squared off ones.
Right.
And it's like those were hard to find, but we never thought, hey, these might be worth a shit ton of money and then end up someplace where nobody lifts weights.
Right.
You know, like the rounded one should be with the lifters that lift the weights, but the powerlifting plates kind of make more sense.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to rip against them because I kind of wish I had them because there would have been less bar width.
Right.
You know, if you go back to some of the older powerlifting videos, and they're all the 100-pound plates.
Yep.
You know, they're all the way out to the end of the bar, and there could be this much bar sleeve left.
Right. So you're getting some extreme whip on a heavy squat too. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So at that time, everybody's like, make the bars bigger and longer. It's like, wait a minute. All we had to do was make the plates thin.
Yeah. EliteFTS belt squat. I don't know what this one's called for sure, but
it's a version of this. Again, scales all the way down to where it's just a belt squat. So this is a tiger belt squat on steroids and growth hormone.
Okay.
With the weight
so it's
storage.
On the works,
and, everything's on here.
Oh yeah, because actually this goes back to here.
And then
if you're not even paying attention to this, you know.
Yeah, and behind there's storage, you know, attachments as well.
And that's like I said too. There are, you know, even just the equipment is here in one thing, but really noticing everything that's hanging off of every piece of equipment is a whole separate thing. I noticed some speakers and stuff back here. Is this, if you're listening to music, is this where it comes out of in here then? Okay. There's some over there too?
Yeah, that one doesn't work.
Okay.
That's the only one that works.
Okay. Oh, you got selectorized Elite.
Yep, selectorized leg curl. These were recent additions that we had. So this was replacing a seated leg curl that I had.
Okay.
And replacing a standing leg curl I had. So it's slowly bringing in our own with that. This one took a little bit longer because I want to stretch.
Yep.
In it, and that becomes a little more difficult because you want to stretch, but you don't want to hyperextend somebody's knees that they break their legs.
Right.
So you got to balance that out.
So do you like seated leg curl better or the prone?
Seated.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. That seems to be the consensus.
Yeah.
Everyone that I talk to.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. Okay. Good. I'm just making personal notes.
Yeah. I mean, if I was real serious and doing it all the time, I would definitely still mix it up.
Right.
But by
if
default,
you're going
this is where I'm going to go.
Yeah. What is this selectorized machine right here?
Standing leg curl.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The trick is we always talk about to do the double leg standard leg curl.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. All right. You got another platform in front of this. Is this the big 6-post rack?
Yeah, it's a signature rack.
Okay.
This is when you get more into like universities and high schools and stuff like that.
Right, for sure. Like it looks, and then they brand it for the university and everything.
This one's been, this one's old as hell too.
Yeah. You don't have any idea how many pounds of plates, pounds of weights you have in the gym, do you?
No.
We talked about barbells, but
no, that's
the poundage of weights would be tens of thousands of pounds.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. They're everywhere.
Oh, this is standing chest press.
Yes.
Type machine. I don't know what you call it, but
A standing press.
Yeah. And you can adjust the handles up and down.
What I always didn't like about the other ones that were out there is when somebody would press, you would see their shoulder blades roll off the pad.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So we made it so ours are angles, so you can change the pad angle to be able to make sure your shoulder blades are pressed against it all the time.
Yep.
And then the handles adjust, it's a slider. So there's probably 100 iterations of grips.
Right.
Where if you have the locked in grips, you're kind of stuck with this, or this.
Yep.
And you got to stand on I've done this before. You got to stand on a box to be able to get the right grip that you want, stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. The big, I don't know, weight stack, quad.
Yeah, this was another kind of recent addition because a lot of the gyms that we set up, they do have some kind of cable machine or some type of quad station.
Right.
This is a little tricky here because we have so much shit in here that I wasn't going to do a dual unit. So then it was like, well, what am I going to put on it? And I wanted the low row, to replace the Magnum that we talked about, but also because I wanted this here to be able to adjust up and down. So you can change the angle by bringing the seat up and have this adjust up and down as well, where a lot of rows it's just fixed.
So you can pick whatever you want on these 4 sides technically.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like you said, you'd pick one of these sides, this wouldn't be here, there'd be a second side.
Yes, yes. Where this I knew I wanted, this I knew I wanted because it was replacing machines.
Yep.
The other two became more of how can I do like functional trainer stuff on this?
Yeah.
And then when we come around this side, when you have these pulleys here that match, you can be right here in front and basically have the use of that functional trainer.
Right, right.
So a quasi, I don't want to say budget friendly.
Yeah.
But
right.
The ability to do the same thing as the functional trainer, but also have one piece here that you don't have to worry about how much space you need out.
Yeah.
Because it is close to the wall.
When you say, like, we're talking about stuff and you mentioned, like, oh, this is what I wanted. So are you feeling like this is what I wanted, this is what I want to be able to do when I'm lifting here, this is what I wanted, this is what I want other people to be able to do, or this is what I wanted, I want to be able to show off?
If it's going to come in here, it's what do I want to do.
Okay, so that's like one of the main, it's like I want to use this for what I want to lift, like that's a big part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Now things like the rack and stuff like that, the sales guys help more with that than what I would want.
Right.
Because I rarely use a power rack for anything.
Okay. What is this?
Had this forever too. I mean, this one's going back 20 years too. It's a stretch trainer.
Does Juji have one of these outside? I'm like, I know I've seen this somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
He has one sitting outside of his barn, I think. Yeah.
And we're a supplier of this too, but I don't think we've sold any. But I mean, just any position, like my shoulder's jacked up. So, I can get in there and hold.
Right.
Hamstring stretch. It's kind of like a fat guy's way to do stretching without having to get on the floor.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you would have asked me what this is. I don't know if I could have told. I could have maybe made something up, but I'm not sure.
That would be one that if everything just went to shit, it would go to my garage.
Yeah. So that would stay no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like at your home? Do you have gym equipment at all? You come here.
Yeah.
So the last time you had gym equipment at your home would have been the very first gym, pretty much?
Yeah, and that was just literally for sled dragging, reverse hypers, glute ham raises, pull down abs, that ab bench. That was it.
Yeah.
I need a separation. And I was working from home at the time.
Yeah.
So it's like if I had to train, it was just, it wasn't working.
Okay. Suits and shirts. And
This I think was a chain and band storage rack.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes, a lot of things in here become overgrown, kind of like weeds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It just keeps growing
It just keeps growing with shit.
Yeah.
They get stuck on there.
Yeah. Behind it's almost like a rig setup, kind of, in CrossFit terms, I suppose, where you could hang and mount just about anything from this.
We try to have almost every attachment that we have here.
Yeah.
So the ISO rack, this part here, is an easy way to do isometrics, but not have to deal with safeties going all the way through the full pin.
Right.
Right. It also allows for isometrics here. Say you're doing a pull, you can pull here 1, 2, 3, then step out and do a full pull. You know, go from static to the dynamic.
Yeah.
And the Smith machine there replaced the Smith machine that we had before.
And you have mono attachments that
Yes,
would trolley up and down.
We have 3 types. So we have the ones that are sliders
Yeah.
like that. Then we have ones that kind of go in like the J cup.
Yep.
And then the fix attached with the screws.
Do you? I mean, obviously you don't need to use mono
Yeah.
attachments here, but do you? Have you? I mean,
We use
would
them
that-
on the bench rack.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people will. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, we still have people come here and like squat with the yellow rack. I'm like, what the fuck is this? More like, I don't get it.
I like the yoke.
Yep.
How long has this been around? Because it looks like it's been
Probably 20 years too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always liked the look of this one with the the tubes on the
Yeah.
bottom.
Most of the time it's been stored outside.
Yeah. I like that.
Yep.
Mono. Your mono. How many monos are in here?
There's 4 now.
Yeah.
I had 5, but I moved one out because it was getting too claustrophobic between each one.
Okay.
So you do need to have some space.
All these look fairly. None of them look like monos that you've had for 20 years, or
They've all been replaced.
Okay.
You know, so a lot of the ones that get replaced will go to, you know, former sponsors. I try to put those out to places I know where people are going to use them
Yeah.
seriously,
Right.
right? Because there is some, like we had a bench rack years ago that was 20 years old. I'm like, man, I need to replace this, but who am I going to give it to that I know is going to actually care for it?
Right.
Like a kid?
Right.
No, that's probably a bad example. You're not going to give a kid away. But like a dog or some
Yeah,
shit. A cat.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
A cat. We have to move. You can't have cats anymore. Like who's going to not kill the cat?
Right. That's a good example. Tommy, look at that earthquake bar clock.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy Seitzer made that for us.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Every gym needs one of those.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
An earthquake Barbell clock platform
Yeah.
timer. We talked about the bars, but as long as we're looking at, my favorite part of the bars is like the bar wall,
Mm-hmm.
where you just scan this and it's nothing but, I think in this wall alone there's like 130 barbells. I was kind of roughly counting.
Yeah, it could be.
And it just goes on and
Yeah.
on and on. Last time we were here, I asked you if you could point out any bars to me, but are there any bars that are particularly odd or unique to you, or that you just really like? Or is there anything in this wall of bars that you're like, yeah, this bar, you said that's coming with the garage to you if it had to.
Yeah.
Is there a bar or anything in here that's like, yeah, that's coming with me
Well,
too?
yoke bar would for sure,
Right.
and a spider bar would. Which one, I don't really care.
Right.
Every bar's kind of got a story where this would have been the first reverse grip bar.
Yeah.
You can still see the notes on the thing.
So when would that have been?
I don't know, 10 years ago maybe.
Yeah, and it's got literally like the notes of when you're
Yeah.
deciding how to make it and what
Yeah.
the feedback you're getting with the.
And then
This, I think you pointed this one out to me last time, which I thought was
the multi-grip.
Yeah, and it's got all the knurling marks, which I think is a really interesting idea.
Yeah, it was
Like,
a flop.
I like the
Yeah,
idea
yeah,
though.
yeah.
Where it's like if you're, because everyone's you're doing close grip
Mm-hmm.
bench, you're doing wide grip bench, you're doing comp grip bench, whatever it is, and you can like actually instead
Yeah.
of, well, I start with my thumbs here and then move that in a thumb width, and that's where I do my close grip. Like it's like you have the ring marks to actually
Yeah,
decide.
it was a
then.
strength coach that gave me the idea because he wanted something easier for his athletes.
Yeah.
Say grip 1, grip 2, grip 3,
Right.
grip 2, 4.
It makes sense.
It could have been a good idea, just wrong time.
Right.
A lot of things kind of work that way too.
Right.
Whereas here's when we were talking about the patent with the football bar, that's it right there.
Okay, gotcha. That's what you mean by the center is
Yeah. Carved out so that it can get closer.
This is like a
That's the
built-in
first shoulder
board
saver.
press, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
the shoulder saver.
Yeah, so that was before we made the shoulder saver pad. 'Cause
Yeah.
Getting the full range of motion on benches and stuff like that for me was an issue.
Yeah.
I wanted a wider grip, make it a little bit easier on the joints. And then once we got it done through production and started selling it, it's like, not everybody's going to buy this.
Right. What if we just made a pad?
What if we just made a pad?
that went on
that
any
kinda went into
bar.
the shoulder saver
Yeah.
pad.
Makes sense
Yeah.
when you think about it like that too. Yeah.
This was a idea gone bad.
What was
That
the
way-
idea there?
To take one of our other type of safety squat bars and just bench with it. But it doesn't do shit.
Okay.
So it's a reminder that not everything goes right. See right here would be the very old where it came from.
Okay, yeah,
From
yeah.
there.
So is this an early version of the of
Yes,
the
this
bar, then?
well, yeah, this is how we were making them for years and years and years. But where I ran into the problem was when I could no longer squat and could only use safety squat bars.
Right.
Is this here, not just the padding, but the compression on my spine? I wasn't able to use it for long durations of time.
Okay.
It would just wreck my back. So I wanted to displace the load
Yeah.
across the entire upper back, thus the wider pad, right?
So what year approximately, like this as we all know it and all have it, did this start to look like this? Like
Probably 10 years ago.
Okay, okay.
Because it's once this was common sense. We need
Yeah.
to displace the weight. The pad became the issue then, because it's 2 layers. So you need one that kind of forms to your back, so there's no gaps. If you're behind somebody, you don't see any light.
Yeah.
But then you still need a pad to keep it up, right? So that became the dicey part, was get the pad right. That's where everybody else fucks up, because they'll use like a swimming noodle or something
Right.
that would be in there.
I would say credit to you, your idea and thought behind this. The market and the competitors apparently agreed that you were right.
Yeah.
Because if you know, I don't know, maybe you've probably noticed, but everyone's looks just like yours now.
Pretty well, they're trying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's-
And it at least
the
looks
pad,
like it
yeah.
at least looks
Yeah.
like yours. You know, the goal is for it to be
The pad
similar.
is where the hiccup becomes, because what I have to pay for the pad on the wholesale side would be about half the price that the cheapest bar out there is being sold for.
Yeah.
Just for the pad.
Yeah.
Before we have to put a margin on it. You know, so I get why they're not, doing that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll fuck the angle up. You know, you
Yeah.
should be able to.
I've noticed
Yeah.
it before on ones that I've used, because I mean, obviously we have this and have used this for
Yeah.
a very long time, and sometimes when you use other ones, you can tell.
Well, the test is with
Yeah.
no weight, you should be able to let go of the handles and it not flip off your back.
Right.
If it flips off, then they have the angle just a little off.
Okay. On the monolifts, are these different versions? I mean, is there different?
This is a
variations
4x4, and this was just me.
So
Because
it's a monster.
it's a monster.
I mean, is this?
It's not even
exception-
on the website.
Is this an exceptionally heavy monolift?
Yeah,
then?
oh fuck yeah. We just
So you don't
moved
want to
them.
bring this to set it up at the meets?
No,
And,
no. We just moved them yesterday to kind of space them out.
Yeah.
This is the heaviest one. But
Yeah. How do you move this in here? Can you slide
toe
it?
straps.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was just a matter of taking this rug, sliding it a little bit under this rug, and then dragging
Yeah.
it with the toe straps.
Yeah.
And that's where sled straps come in super helpful. Is you hook them around the thing, you use a carabiner, you put a lap machine attachment on it.
Tommy, I guess we never mentioned it. Dave, we're big horse stall mat guys.
That's all we
and you're
got.
frickin'
Always had.
wall-to-wall horse stall mats in
all
here.
we've ever had.
There's probably, I mean,
There's
it's worth its weight in gold in horse stall mats.
There's
in this
probably
place.
over 100 for sure.
Yeah.
When we moved in here,
like 10,000
we
pounds of
needed
horse
like
stall mats.
double the horse mats that we had, because before it was just under pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how do you buy these things? That's always kind of been an issue.
Yeah.
You got to look around, but if you buy them by the pallet, the price dropped significantly.
Well, and also, you might, they're not all, but you have a lot of the diamond plated horse stall mats. And that's the thing about horse stall mats too, is it you can't always get the same style. Like
I never paid attention to that.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, just is it underneath? Can the water flow?
Yes.
Underneath. I don't even know if I've ever looked at it. I've always just looked at the price.
Right. Your benches, you've got your set benches. We kind of skipped by this one earlier, but is this the floor press idea too, when it's got
Yes.
3 wide pads on it then like that?
Yeah, so the first one I had out here, the floor press rack, was 2x2 tubing.
Okay.
And this one here is, that lifts up.
You could lift that. That's
Yeah,
why I
that
wondered if
comes
you could
up.
take that off.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They just pop out.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense.
And it's gripper pad.
Yeah.
But I wanted the mono arms on it,
Yeah.
just so we didn't have to deal with the power rack and stuff like that. So
what do you call the benches that have basically a front upright on them like this? It's like a cage bench or whatever that is. Do you prefer, if you're benching, would you prefer to bench in this style bench or competition style bench?
Competition bench.
Yeah.
We'll only use this if We are using like reverse bands yesterday. If we're using some type of band or something like this, we'll use this.
Yeah.
It's not as clean as you think it would be to bench with, because you still are going to need a spotter, because if you miss the hook, you're really fucked.
Right. Right.
So.
Okay. And the competition benches, which I love. We've got a couple, I don't know, most similar to that. We got a couple elite comp benches, probably closest to that one.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the exact ones here, but these are still my favorite benches.
Yeah, so
these
lever
competition
adjustment
benches.
and all the other stuff. And we moved them yesterday because of the way they were set up. They were right under the light. Yeah. Which is not a big deal. I mean, you shouldn't complain about it.
That's the type of thing you get used to a particular gym. And, so our bench area, for example, is just right on concrete. There's not horse stall mat underneath of it. And two of our elite benches are bolted down, so they don't move. We got one that's not bolted down because we sometimes move it around. And what screws me up all the time, we've got horizontal lines in our ceilings like this, and if you lay down and you look at the bar, and the bar to the ceiling is like that, it's like, no, I can't bench like that.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It took 5 years, but you lay down, you got that bright light. It's like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then without anybody noticing, we always use the same bench over and over and over that we didn't have that.
Right.
So yesterday it was like, all right, we're moving this here, and
you've got rugs underneath it.
Yes.
Can you buy these rugs like off your site?
No.
Okay. So these are all kind of custom that you had made for the gym.
Yeah, I forget the company. It's the label somewhere on here.
Yeah.
People have asked over and over. I'm like, look, I'm cool if you want to use the trademark. I'll give the permission.
Yeah.
But these things are like $350.
They're expensive.
They're not cheap.
Yeah. Right.
But I will say, I've never had to get rid of one, and some of these out here are 20 years old.
Right.
I'm sure there's cheaper ones that you can get.
Yeah.
But if all they're going to do is, fray, who cares?
Yeah.
But the grip is what I'm worried about.
Right.
So the mat, your feet will slip.
Right. Yeah, for sure. We've talked about the rugs, and what we've found out is rugs are way more expensive than you think a good rug costs. Is one of those things you're like, oh.
Well, you need to make sure it has the grip too, and the grip will hold.
Right. Otherwise, it's kind of useless. The EliteFTS turf.
Yes.
In here, that's just it's part of the look thing too. When you look in here, it just looks sweet. The chalk bowls and plate storage. We've seen a variety of chalk bowls on these gym tours that we've been doing. This is I like this one here too.
Yeah, the ammonia holder.
Yeah. Yes. Back to the back part of another comp bench, and obviously you podcast out of here, so might not see that in every gym, but.
Yeah, for a long time, the podcast table was in the middle of the room. And that kind of sucked because you got to set everything up and take everything down.
Yeah.
And it took us a few years to realize maybe if we just swapped the deadlift
put it a little bit
platform
different spot
and then left it up all the time, it would be a little bit easier.
Save ourselves some work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're kind of went from the front corner to the back corner. Is there anything that we walked by that you thought I really should have brought up that I didn't, that I missed something? I mean, like I said at the beginning, there's other different things we could have talked about in here too.
There's other things like, say, these storage lockers I put. That's just for me.
Yeah.
That I put in because of that thing that you saw down there where weeds just start to grow.
Right.
So
contain it.
The lockers got shelves and hooks and all kinds of shit in there. One's for the podcast and one's just belts and stuff like that. There's bars everywhere, man. It's like stuck in the corner there.
Yeah.
Behind that thing. I think we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah. Well, everyone watching along, make sure you let us know what we walked by that you're like, you dumb shit, Tanner. Why didn't you talk about that? We really wanted to hear the story on it. So drop us a comment and let us know what you think we missed. We're going to be podcasting here on Table Talk in a little bit. So whenever that comes out, make sure to check it out. Dave, anything else that
If you need anything, gym equipment-wise, if it fits in a gym bag or you can load plates on it, EliteFTS has it. All proceeds basically support our content. That's how we're able to put the content out that we do.
And there is a lot of content. I talked about Table Talk. We're regular Table Talk listeners. And how many episodes have you recorded of Table Talk?
Over 350, but before that, there was a sport performance podcast. I didn't do that one. Of 60, but then articles that are on the website, there's 20, 30,000, you know? And then we had to archive it, but we used to have a Q&A and training logs and stuff like that. And between all those that have been archived, there's over 1 million pages.
Yeah.
So we're working on an AI bot that will be able to source from that eventually some point in time.
What will the bot be called?
Yeah. Well, I have no idea.
That's the important
I
stuff.
have no idea. No
Dave
idea.
bot.
No idea. But this thing, the whole thing was started on content, and then it was how do you pay for the content?
Right.
And then the products became how the content was paid for.
Yep.
And over time, more product sales, more content. There's kind of a balance in there, to the point that is our marketing. So we don't have revenue for ad spend because it all goes to the content that's out there.
Right.
So I think that's where people see us in the market, where they kind of miss the mark a little bit. This is really a media company that's supported by product sales,
right?
Not a gym company that's using media,
right?
Is what content marketing,
right?
If that was true, it wasn't called content marketing in 1998. You know what I'm saying? It
didn't exist yet. Yeah,
that's kind of not how it works.
Yeah.
But the flip side of all that thing is, if we sold shitty products, then you would think that the content's shitty. Right. To where I wanted to have content out there. If you go through the articles and even the podcast, it's not my biased view on training.
Yeah.
It's anything that we feel works.
Yeah.
We put out there and let the readers or listeners kind of decide, instead of just pigeonholing in, this is the best way, only do this. Because people that do that don't last 25 years.
Right. Absolutely.
They don't really help a lot of people either.
Right. All right. Well, we appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for doing this with us. If you like the tour, let us know. If you like the tour, we got 30 other ones to check out. So check it out on the channel. We'll see you for the next one.
Thank you, guys.